This talk is about endurance and why endurance is a worthy challenge. And by sharing my story, I would like to inspire you to hold on to a goal. Even if it's really hard at some times and it might seem to be impossible, it can be worth it to fight for it and to never give up. And I also would like to raise awareness for the challenges that people with a handicap still face in their lives. So when I was 13 years old, I was on the way back home with my bicycle and I was run over by a truck. And besides quite a few severe injuries, the accident left me paralyzed incomplete. And especially the left side of my body was affected. I developed a spasticity that got worse every year. And at some situation, it got so bad that I needed to use a wheelchair and to get along. I still could finish my school, and I was moving to a different city, and I was studying physics and enjoying the life at university. But in the same time, the insurance company reduced, and later they stopped the treatment. And so they started a legal dispute for many years. And the situation got worse all the time. Let me just check for a second the chat if everything is, seems to be okay. Sorry. So 15 years after my accident, I had a scoliosis of 90 degrees. That means it was curled to the left. It wasn't the spine being stiff, but the muscles were twisted in that direction. And at some point, I wasn't able to lift my arms anymore. I wasn't able to use my wheelchair with my arms, so I needed electric supply. I had trouble to live alone and to care for myself. I needed lots of medication, especially painkillers. And at some point, I had to give up my job, and I was working on my PhD thesis at that time in theoretical astrophysics, which was a dream for me. But with all the medication and the severe situation I had, I couldn't make it anymore. So I felt already like I lost almost everything. And the doctors told me the only possible treatment for my situation would be a spinal stiffening for the whole back and an implant of a medical pump that would weaken my muscles. But this would also, weaken my brain. It would make me feel tired and exhausted all the time. So I could absolutely not imagine to go for this suggestion and to go for that surgery at that point. So my goals were to somehow regain independence, to save my back with some other treatment, and being able to work again. For the next 3 years, I was working on the first two goals, and I was on a rehab program. I was in a hospital for a while because I couldn't manage my daily life anymore, and I learned to get along. I literally learned how to put on my clothes, how to cook, how to eat with not being able to lift my arms. So fortunately, I was always good in finding solutions for technical problems. So I got along pretty good, actually, after a while. And I could go back home. I was still able to live by myself and be more or less independent. And then I started to do a lot of research about treatments for spasticity. I learned anatomy. I learned medical expressions to be able to read studies and medical papers. I learned about treatments for spasticity with either medication or surgeries. I went through everything I could find on the internet, and I found a technique where one can cut muscles away. It sounds a bit cruel, but spasticity would stay, but it couldn't act anymore. So I figured out which muscles I would need to get rid of, so that I don't have further problems, but that I have the possibility to control my body again. So I worked out a surgery by myself, and then I was searching for a doctor to do that surgery against the protocol because they were convinced that there's only this one solution. It took me a while to convince somebody, but at some point it worked out, fortunately, and the surgery was really life-changing for me. It was a great relief. I started to have control over my body again. And for the first time, this severe cramps, this spasticity was relaxed a bit more. There is still spasticity left over, but the worst muscles were stopped, say, in short. So I had new challenges. I started my intense workout with all the muscles that I couldn't use for so many years. And I did my trainings every day. I could increase my core stability. At some point, I could sit without support, and I started to be able to lift my arms again and be more and more flexible. And at some point, I was healthy enough. Also, I could reduce my painkillers. Actually, after a while, I was free of painkillers, and I'm still free of all these painkillers, which is a great relief. It makes you, the brain feels so much more free to think, and yeah, it's just a relief to get rid of it. And then I started searching for a job. So I had to find an employer who was willing to hire a person with a handicap and who had a wheelchair accessible office or building. Both is difficult to find in Germany. It really is. So I was searching for a long time and couldn't find a job. So in a way, one can understand if someone wasn't able to work for several years. It is a bit challenging to offer that person a job, but it didn't work out. So I decided at some point that I'm going to apply for an internship first. So it took me a while even to find an internship, but I found one. The job sounded interesting. It wasn't too challenging, but still interesting. And but the building and the offices were not wheelchair accessible. They had an elevator, but they were not. It was out of work, and they I don't know, they couldn't bring it back to work. So, as this was the only chance I had, and I was really so willing to be able to work again, I went for this internship. And I got help every morning to enter the building. So someone came outside after a phone call and was carrying my wheelchair inside, and I was crawling the stairs up to the office. And then I placed a second wheelchair, which I brought to work, and I placed it in the basement. So I had on every level a wheelchair, and I could crawl the stairs up and down to get to the basement to do my experiments and to go back upstairs and to the office to do the evaluations. So it does sound weird a bit, but I'm still happy that I had that chance and that I went for it, and that everything worked out pretty good. And so I would say it was worth it. I spent 6 months in that company, and afterwards I found a job. So it was just one job that I found, and I was fortunate. It was an interesting one. So still up until today, I never really have the choice with my handicap. There's still not many companies who would hire me, but yeah, there's always at least something I can do. So I found this job. I was really happy to be back at work. And then I still continued doing workouts all the time. So I was able to use my right leg again. My right leg is affected by the paralysis a little bit, but by far not as much as the left one. So I was training a lot. I spent a lot of time in building up some muscle strength. I started to learn to walk. That means I had a walker. With that walker, I could get up. I couldn't put all the weight on one leg, but it got more and more. And then I found an amazing high-tech orthosis by Otto Bock for my left leg. Because up to that point, I could walk on one leg and the other one was just sliding next to me. I would say I neglected it or didn't use it. So, and with this orthosis, it would lock the knee while I'm standing on it. And then there are sensors. They can feel when I make a step. And they loosen it loosens the knee, and the leg can swing forward, and then the knee is locked again for me to make the next step. So it's life-changing to use an orthosis like that, because even without feeling my leg and without having function or very little function in my left leg, I'm really able to walk around. And I did research on rehab possibilities. I went to the US for 3 years and spent all my vacation over there because it was the best place I could find to learn to walk again. And so after 15 years, I was finally able to not only use a walker, but to walk around with crutches, which gives me so much independence also for longer distances. And yeah, and as you can't see me at all in this, or just my face in this conference, and I would like to share with you the progress and to show you that it's worth to go on and to go on and all the time to go on. I would like to show you a video of mine. Otto Bock was, I had a cooperation with Otto Bock, and they made a lifestyle video which presents the orthosis and also the, how much is worth, it is worth to have this orthosis, how very, very helpful it is for handicapped people to have an orthosis like that. So I will, real quick, I will switch to YouTube and show you this video.
Ich habe kein so richtiges Leben. I don't really have a life motto. But at times it could be something along the lines of nevertheless, because I just do whatever I think is possible, even if everyone around me is saying it's impossible in my situation. Ich bin Physikerin. I'm a physicist, and I currently work in medical development at a software company. I was run over by a cement mixer when I was 13 years old, and one of the issues it left me with is incomplete paraplegia, which affects the left side of my body in particular. I was in a wheelchair for almost 15 years, and then I had a big operation to reduce the spasticity. After that, I was able to start doing a ton of training to get back on my feet, quite literally. Now that I no longer need the wheelchair all the time, and I have the orthosis for my left leg, I can go on much bigger outings. I can get out in the forest and on dirt paths. I was able to ride a bike again for the first time in 25 years. I really enjoy it. When someone says to me that something is impossible with a wheelchair or the orthosis because the path is too difficult and no one has done it before, I think it over. And if I can find a solution, I just go out and do it.
Okay, so thank you very much for listening to my story, and I hope it was it can encourage you a little bit to hold on to a goal and to fight for it. If you have questions, I can answer them. You could just put them in the chat if you like to. Thank you.